I came out of the service where I was very active in a company called the OCU, the Officers Christian Union, which I saw several friends and officers come to know Christ. It's now the Officers Christian Fellowship. So I came out of that. I was no longer an officer, and I felt a little bad maybe taking civilian friends. So CBMC, we lived over in Temple Hills, Maryland, and they met at the Howard Johnson restaurant. And I remember the little group that met there, the lady brought her husband and fed him with pablum, and the place was a wreck. And I found out if the 8 men didn't leave money, he didn't leave any tip for the waitress. This was absolutely something. So I went to this roofer and he said, "Oh, I'd take it over if you will, please." So I took it over and I started to run it. And I remember getting to the restaurant and started tipping, and the room was a disgrace. So I got the manager in. I said, "Mr. Manager, I'm having a U.S. Congressman come today in a half hour. Do you want me to tell him this is a Howard Johnson? He's going to ask, is this really a Howard Johnson? Can you read Congressman so-and-so's going to come and speak to my group, and he's going to come in your establishment?" You know, and the man, I said, "You're going to get down here," and he helped me pick it up. All the junk from a party the night before, balloons in a party. I said, "I'm tipping your waitress well. This room had better be ready, or I'm calling the headquarters in Chattanooga." So we had an outreach stand at the Howard Johnson every Saturday. And we did our follow-up right there at the table. You brought a friend, you sat with him, the waitress served an extra pot of coffee, and you did your follow-up right there with him. And every Saturday, we had an outreach meeting at Howard Johnson at Hillcrest Heights, Maryland. And I just started there, and then gradually I became chairman downtown, in which the Lord allowed us to have outreaches, we call them, at the George Washington University Club, a very prestigious club, and have at least a half a dozen senators and secretaries of the cabinet, because we're here in town, and about 15 or 20 congressmen that would come and speak to the group, you know, and share a testimony in which every man was mandated to bring an unsafe friend. And I was the throttle and the choke point. And I told him, "You ain't coming unless you bring, you know, or invited 2 or 3 unsafe men. You ain't coming."
What has CBMC meant to you personally, and then what does the key about mentoring?
Mentoring is a new phenomenon. Should have been there all along. Is Paul's taking a Timothy and sharing with a younger man spiritual values, and letting the 20-something, the early 30-something, be with an older man who's been through all the trial and errors and screwed up and done it wrong. And the mentoring we're having at with the Xerox Center, a thing on mentoring, but that's a new thing. The old CBMC was an outreach meeting where you had a top speaker like Chuck Grassley, U.S. Senator from Nebraska, or the Commandant of the Marine Corps, a 4-star Commandant of the Marine Corps, whose name escapes me right now. Chuck Crulley, 4-star General of the Marine Corps, come and speak. We had 126 men. It was outreach. 126 men. We had 28 admirals and generals retired. Half of them didn't know Christ, but they came to hear Crulley speak. And it was absolutely a wonderful thing. It was incredible. I remember, Dan, trying to get General Krulak to speak. And I was going through this lieutenant colonel. And I couldn't get him. And I said, "Colonel, guess what? You know, and if this general doesn't call, I'm calling Senator Bill Armstrong, who's a personal friend of mine, and your office is going to get a call from U.S. Senator, head of the Armed Forces Committee. You're going to call." 20 minutes later, I get a call, and I hear a voice saying, "Hello, Ed, this is Chuck Krulak." And I knew the colonel had put his junior high son on the phone, and I was ready to explode, and it was Chuck Krulak, General Krulak. "Hi, Ed, this is Chuck Krulak calling. I understand you want me to speak for you." He had a high voice, 4-star Marine General. I thought, this colonel is going to get it. He's putting his junior high son up, and he says, I said, "No, General, yes, sir, this is General Krulak." And he said, "I'll come speak for you." And I said, "Look, I want a testimony." He says, "I'll bring my .45. You shoot me in the head if I don't deliver the goods. I will deliver exactly how I was in a home when a major led me to the Lord. I was a young lieutenant, and I was in a Bible study, and I accepted Christ and knelt down and accepted Christ. I will share that. Yes, sir, I'll be there." And Chuck was a little late coming. I remember I had all these men in the room. They had 3 rooms lined up, Dan, and I went out, and I saw coming down the hall a 6'3" black Marine captain. I said, "Captain, where the heck is the general?" and a little voice pops out, I'm right here, Ed, I'm right here. He was fumbling with his notes. He was, well, usually the aide walks behind the general. Well, the captain, big 6'3" aide, was walking in front, and here was Krulak back here getting his notes out. I'm right here, Ed. I'm right here. I'm on the ball. Where do you want me to go? You know, it was just incredible. And he shared a testimony. He shared Christ. And all these retired admirals and generals heard Christ. So CBMC to me is an outrage. We have a top speaker like Senator Dan Coates or Senator Bill Armstrong, which will bring the guys out, you see, because of the credentials. And everybody brings an unsafe friend. And then in mealtime evangelism, in a neutral setting, a country club or GW University, they hear, you know, they're looking around for the hook. There's no hook. They're looking around for, you know, come in, we're offering. You know, we have a card at the end, you know, we fill out very nicely. But today it's more into mentoring. See, most of us go through life, sit, soak, and sour, eat and retreat, mingle and tingle. We go through life, fluttering through life, mingle and tingle at church events. That's right. And we come out of church and we allow the big erasers to disintermediate every darn spiritual truth word. How many people come out of a church service, Dan, and take time in the hallway or at lunch talking about or agonizing or wrestling with the spiritual truth, even if you disagree? No, it's where are we going to go see the Redskin game? Where are we going to do this? Where are we going to eat? It's a disgrace on our Christian body that we don't take things of God more seriously, and we come out of church and want to wrestle with some concepts about the sermon and talk about what is the spiritual context for my life? What can I take away to live the life between the bookends, between next Sunday, and we don't do that. You look at the whole, I mean, I'm not talking about everybody else. I'm talking about me too. And so it's a sad commentary. We're spiritually LITE. And we need to get spiritual strengthened by having a daily quiet time. You take a survey, Dan, if you go of your 10 Christian friends back home, and say, do you have 5 days a week of serious quiet time? You don't want to know.